Welcome to the Loveland All Sports Podcast, sponsored by Meredith DeWitt of Brittany Fritch Realty, Loveland's #1 boutique brokerage. Contact Meredith for any and all of your real estate needs at meredithbfteam@gmail.com. This episode, I sit down with Loveland High School football coach, Coach Mullins, strength and conditioning coach, Coach McGarity, and Jason Harbin, head of fitness and wellness for Quotient Health. He's also a personal trainer. Jason has 2 sons at the high school, and he offered up his time to assist the coaches to present to players and parents his tips and tricks to help and focus on all things nutrition for the high school student athlete. Please share this with your kids and have them listen to this very important message. All right, good morning, Loveland. Today we're here talking about a topic that adults and teens and all athletes, the biggest, baddest football senior to the smallest cross-country girl freshman, everyone can benefit. Today we're sitting here talking about nutrition and the teenage student athlete. Got a couple guests here today. I wanted to first introduce Coach Bob Mullins.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
And strength and conditioning coach, Coach Sean McGarity. Welcome.
Good morning.
And the star of our show, I want to introduce Jason Harbin, who is the head of fitness and wellness at Quotient Health. Hello, Jason.
Good morning, guys.
Awesome. Well, welcome. So, Jason, why don't you tell a little bit about what you do in the real world and how you can help us today?
So I've worked in the fitness industry for about 20 years. Grew up in Northern Ohio, played college football, and then I worked in college athletics for a couple years, and then I got recruited to leave that area and become a personal trainer. I've been doing that for the last 18 years, and just started working also at a concierge medical practice here in Cincinnati called Quotient Health. So I'm doing both, and I have 2 boys that go here to Loveland, and so I'm kind of experiencing it from both ends in the industry as well as a parent in the athletic department here in Loveland.
How old are your boys?
15 and 16, freshmen and sophomores.
All right, great. Awesome. Well, welcome. So we're going to get into some pretty technical things, but also today we're going to try to get to the basics. And this is important for players and the parents. And it's something you can all pass around. You can revisit a year from now, 6 months from now. Please, we encourage you to get your kids to listen to it. There will be a few Easter eggs in there so the coaches can ask the players along the way, hey, what was Coach McGarity's comment about this? Or what did Coach Mullins say about that? So really want to hold accountable to help our Tigers get better. So to kick things off here, we're just going to have an open conversation, but maybe more for Coach McGarity. How much emphasis do you place on nutrition within your program?
I would say, one, not enough. I like to tread lightly with that topic, and also just how much I have on my plate with the weight room side of things, the strength and conditioning. But I do usually bring it up with each group, maybe once a week. Don't get into too many specifics. That's why I think when Coach Mullins and Jason brought this idea up, that'll be a great way to educate the kids, but really the parents are the ones that control the diet that's happening at home and even at school, whether they pack lunches or whatnot. So this is a great way for me to kind of check that box in a way. But I would love to be able to do a little bit more if I could.
Yeah, can't do it all. But so, Jason, what are the biggest nutrition mistakes that you see high school athletes make?
The biggest one I think by far that the coaches agree with is kids just don't eat enough, boys, girls, regardless of sport. They're sitting around during the school day, generally inactive, and they're busy in class, so they don't have time to eat in the way that like a professional athlete who can really prioritize it. However, you still have to prepare, so I think just in general, not eating enough, not hydrating well enough. Most high school sports activities are, of course, in the afternoon or evening, so your entire school day is basically the pre-workout routine that you're preparing for, whether it's a game on a Friday night or a Tuesday night or practice right after school like a lot of kids. I think in general, that's the biggest one, is just not enough food.
Good. Okay, good to know. What does a good day of eating look like?
I think for a high school kid, again, this might even be the biggest mistake as I talk to some of my kids' friends, is not eating breakfast is still a huge problem. They're busy in the morning. So I would say for sure putting something in your body is going to be better than nothing. I try to look at things as a good, better, best strategy for high school families. Good is going to be something. Better is going to be, we want to have protein every meal. The body does not have a way to store protein. The only way you can have protein in your body long term is the muscle mass you've developed, and that's a bank account you want to never withdraw from. And all you have to do is eat enough protein. So a good start for people is just making sure every meal has protein in it. And then I think as we get closer to athletics in the afternoon and evening, we want to think about getting more carbs on board so that you're prepared. So for a lot of the kids, it's lunch, and then they don't have anything until after practice or after sports, which is not good. So again, good, better, best, just eating something every few hours. Better would be trying to get some carbs on board pre-workout, pre-practice. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. It could be a granola bar. It could be, honestly, this is where a lot of parents make some, roll their eyes, but a bag of Skittles right before practice is a lot better than zero. Because these high school kids, with the way their metabolisms are, they're just going to blow through it. And I would always rather have an athlete be overfed than underfed, because you're going to pay a performance cost immediately. So I think as we lead towards that practice after school, you have carbs on board, you've had some kind of protein several times, several small meals ideally. And then afterwards, that's when all the recovery and growth is going to happen. So
Yeah,
from
great.
the time,
Go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, from the time practice is over until bedtime, that's your main recovery interval, which is also your preparation for the next day. So you're always in a recovery and preparation cycle. And so you have to think about that. It's not just the snack before you lift or play. It's those several big meals, hopefully, afterwards.
Okay. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of every parent, right? Here at Loveland, we have some kids that start eating lunch at like 10:45 in the morning. We start school late now than the way we were all raised, which cracks us all up. What is a good breakfast with protein on the go that's quick that the kids can eat before school?
I think the easiest one that requires no prep from the parents is Greek yogurt right out of the fridge. Depending on the size of the athlete and their appetite, 1 or 2 Greek yogurts quickly. That's going to give them some protein. Maybe they eat a banana with it. There's no excuse as to why you wouldn't have time for that. I mean, you literally open a package.
Right.
It's 2 or 3 bites. Eat the banana. So that's if we go good, better, best. Maybe that's the good, simple one. And good would also be literally anything.
Correct.
Better would be, again, following that formula of getting some protein and some carbs. So maybe it's, if you're lucky enough that your mom loves you enough that she's going to cook you a fresh breakfast. A lot of options there.
Dad, too.
Yeah, dads, exactly. Could be a protein shake with some fruit in there. That way they're getting some carbs and protein. Could be a bowl of cereal. There's nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned bowl of cereal. Preferably if you're getting, if you want to do better, there's like Fairlife milk that has higher protein levels. And I think even for like some of the younger kids or some of the girls that just don't want to eat in the morning, it could be just drink something. It's always going to be easier to get something liquid in than solid. There's a variety of, I know Oikos, the Greek yogurt company, they make a drinkable yogurt smoothie. It's got 20 to 30 grams of protein depending on which one you buy. I mean, there's just no excuse for time. You have the time to do that.
Right.
And let's be honest, I'm sure the parents can agree with this. The kids are farting around in the morning, screwing around, not getting out of bed, on their phone. So there's time to open something out of the fridge and quickly drink it.
Yeah, good points. All right, so moving on to a high-level question. What are the biggest obstacles that you guys see in getting athletes to buy into strength and nutrition?
I would say on my end, and it's piggybacking a little bit on what Jason said, kids being underfueled, but also of this 2 different worlds. We have a strength and conditioning, sports performance world. That diet is very different than the aesthetics. These kids are on social media and they see these influencers and these fitness people, and they have these just shredded bodies or lean. That diet's completely different. And so they are trying to balance those 2 worlds, and I think that's a big struggle of, hey, we need to eat. Some of these kids need to eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories.
Right.
You're not going to have these shredded abs doing that. So we have to kind of pick which world we're going to live in.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Jason, anything to add?
Very similar to what Sean said. The analogy I always use when I'm talking to high school kids or even college athletes is, if you took the top 100 NFL players and said, okay, guys, take your shirts off and have them lined up, they're all going to be generally muscular, fit guys. A few of them will be shredded. Most of them, I think you'd be surprised how not shredded they are. Yeah. They're not fat.
Pat Mahomes.
Right. I mean, again, if we were wrong, then you would see it differently. But But you look at the NFL guys, and these are the top athletes in the world, and most of them are not shredded. They are muscular, they are fit, and they're relatively low body fat, and that's all we're asking. And I think that for a lot of these kids, there's nothing wrong with having an aesthetic goal that you'd like to have with an athletic goal, but the muscle will develop in a way that your physique, you'll be happy with your physique. You work hard with Coach McGarity in the weight room, you're eating enough food, you're sleeping enough, you're going through puberty, your body will be just fine if you fuel it properly.
Yeah, my next question was going to be how important is recovery, sleep, hydration, stretching compared to training?
I think it's really 50-50. I think we're in this modern world now with social media where even at the high school level, the kids are getting exposed to foam rollers, massage guns, all these supplements, cold plunge, sauna, and you're seeing all this stuff. And that, it's like the old philosophical conversation about you have a glass jar, you put the big rocks in, then the gravel, then the sand. All that stuff is the sand. If you're working really hard, that's going to take care of most of it. I might even say it's 60% training, 40% nutrition. I think when you're a bodybuilder and you're trying to look great on stage, it's 90% nutrition. But we are trying to make performance enhancements. It's not just about what your body fat levels are. And that's going to require a lot of hard work and training. So that's why I think it's pretty heavily weighted towards training, which is not the information you're going to see on social media from the talking heads who are the quote-unquote nutrition experts.
Makes sense. So how do you teach the athlete to take ownership of this?
Go ahead, Sean.
That's a good question right there. I just think how bought in to their sport, to their training are they? They are still at the mercy of mom and dad. Usually they're the ones getting the groceries. But you can easily have a conversation with mom or dad, and I've had this talk with coaches and players of, I've got this conflict with times. Like have a mature conversation with mom or dad. Hey, mom, dad, this means a lot to me, my training. Is there any way that we can make sure we get these items on our grocery list? Is there any way that you can teach me how to make some hard-boiled eggs or whatever the case may be? They just have to want this for themselves. As far as how do you teach that, how do we create that? I don't know. Is it just within them? Maybe. That's a really hard question.
Well, you guys are the experts, but I've had 3 athletes, and we're also foodies, and we're a big family, and we love to eat. So our philosophy has been, 5 days during the week, we got guardrails on it. And then we have fun on the weekends. How feasible is that?
I think it's very feasible, and like Jason was saying, just the simple, hey, I would agree, breakfast is probably the most missed item. There's really no excuse. It's that easy of just literally taking off the lid of a yogurt and eating it. The whole process, 35 seconds, maybe a minute if you're having 2 of them. So it's just making that conscious decision that, hey, I'm locked in. And again, you should still live life. Again, the 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, we're dialed in and we get to go splurge and have all this ice cream, which I think most of these kids should have anyways because they're under-fueled. But that's very feasible. It's just making that conscious decision. Hey, this is what I'm pursuing.
Well, when you do it 5 days a week and then the kid, like instead of eating, we see things where the kids will say on Saturday, maybe they'll not get the double meat lovers pizza. They'll just get something simple because of what 5 days taught them. Mm-hmm. And then we also motivate them, hey, come to Costco with us on Saturday and get all the samples you want and go help us pick out the high protein, microwavable omelet thing that our kid likes. And that works out well because now he's interested in it because he went and picked it out of the freezer. We see that as well as being a success.
That's the direction I was going to go with that question is I think at the high school level and beyond, the kids have to be involved in the process. It should not be 100% on the parents. And so that's the conversation I have with a lot of my athletes over the years is once they're in high school and they claim to be serious and they want all these things and maybe they want to play at the next level, then I would almost say it's shame on the parents a little bit to baby them, like make them go to the grocery store with you.
Yeah.
Make them take the chicken out of the bag and put it on the aluminum foil and put it in the air fryer. Connect them to the process a little bit. For my kids, we include them a lot. my wife and I, particularly my wife, does a great job prepping ingredients, and then they put it together. If we get the rice cooker out, we put it on the counter, we load it up. Okay, now you put the rice in the container, pick out whether you want steak or chicken or whatever proteins we already have prepped in the fridge. You put it together. So that's 50% of my answer, is including them in the physical process.
Okay.
And then the second half that I think parents will connect to is the template for good eating for all humans is about the same. The details change. So whether you're a high school athlete or you're a 47-year-old parent, you still should be eating protein every meal. And even for the parent who maybe would like to lose a few pounds and their kid who wants to gain 20 pounds and become a great athlete, the template's the same in the sense that when the parent works out, they still should be eating carbs after they work out. But their amount of carbs is probably going to be a lot lower than the high school soccer player.
Makes sense.
And their window of opportunity for those carbs is going to be much shorter than the kid, but the template is the same. So again, I think as the kid, and I've seen this happen with a lot of families, the kid gets more serious about nutrition, and then the parents actually get on board, which is neat to see.
Yeah, makes sense.
So on
go ahead, Coach.
on my end, I think what Coach McGarity was talking about with like buy-in. When you look at like buy-in with football, like specifically, or any sport really, I think that the sooner that we can realize that the nutrition piece goes hand in hand with the working out piece and getting stronger, and then that connects with performance. Like that is going to be the critical piece of that, is that it's all connected, and if you want to perform at a high level, the nutrition piece is going to be critical to you performing at a high level in an athletic contest, or even on a smaller stage. Like it's going to be critical to your performance in a specific workout that day. The sooner that the kids can make that connection, the better that they are going to be as an athlete, and the better that their performance is going to be on the field.
Awesome, great. So you mentioned one of the questions I had was, what's one food every athlete should eat more of? And the answer's been protein. That's pretty clear. What would be another consideration?
I would say from an athletic standpoint, I would say white rice.
Okay.
It's the most easily digestible carbohydrate. It's naturally gluten-free. So even for people that don't have gluten sensitivity, it's just easier to digest. So say you have a kid who's too skinny and they're working hard and they're doing a ton. The thing that's going to grow their metabolism more than anything is going to be the carbohydrates. And white rice is just so easy. It goes with a million different foods. It's easy to make, especially from the parent's perspective. You can get a rice cooker or make it on the stovetop. By far, that's my answer, is white rice.
Great. And we've brought up protein. Do you encourage things like protein shakes or supplements at a teenage athlete's years?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. I want to focus on real food. Whether you're 30 or you're 15, it doesn't matter. The human body knows whether it's real food or not. So eventually, if you're getting 75% of your daily protein from supplements, you will know there's a problem. You're going to start to have bloating, indigestion, gas, something. So the rule that I try to get people to follow is at the absolute maximum, no more than 50% of your daily protein should come from non-food sources, and that's not the goal. That would be the outlier. Let's say it's a day where you're busy, you didn't have enough food. I'd still rather people get enough protein than not enough, but we do want it to come from real food. And that's not just the feel-good answer to make sure our kids don't over-prioritize supplements. There's real science behind that. So we want to focus on lean red meat, chicken, turkey, seafood, quality dairy sources like cottage cheese and Greek yogurt. And then last on that list is high-quality protein powder, pre-made drinks, protein bars.
So the timing of that, Jason, so I know our kid, he comes home from every lift with Coach McGarity, comes home and makes his own protein shake at home. Is that too late? Should he be making it at the weight room?
The rule that I like to use is the phrase I always throw around is 3 meals in 2 hours. So in that, let's call it 2 to 3 hours post-workout, I think a lot of parents would have heard this or they think they've heard this, that protein is really important after workout. It's actually not. It's actually carbohydrates are way more important afterwards because protein has no time sensitivity. Because as I said earlier, you can't store protein in the body. You can store carbs, you can store fat really well. You cannot store protein. So we just need a slow, steady trickle of protein 7 days a week, whether we're training or we're not. Protein is really just infrastructure maintenance. It's like paying your property taxes. The carbohydrates are the big one. So going back to your question, afterwards, that 3 meals in 2 hour deal, I like to try to get kids to think about taking something with them to their workouts that they're consuming before they even go home. So it needs to be something easy and fast. So maybe it's like for your son, maybe it's a protein shake and a banana. And then they go home and they eat a big solid dinner still.
Right.
Because it's not just that one meal. One meal is not enough. Even if you ate a massive meal, like for your son, one massive meal is not enough for him. He's a big kid. So again, I think, let's say in an ideal world for after practice, it would be you have something quick and easy within 5 minutes the workout being over. You go home, shower, maybe eat a real dinner with the family. And then for that kid, and depending on what their nutritional needs are, maybe they're eating another dinner, basically dinner part 2, and that's still happening around 2 hours after the workout is over. So they're very well fed. That's probably the most important window from a long-term growth perspective. That post-workout window is critical, whereas the pre-workout window is critical for performance short-term for that session.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
I'd like to kind of like touch on that a little bit is that the supplement side of things that I've seen in the past that, you know, a student, hey, here's my protein shake or whatever the item is, and they view it as more of a replacement. So we'll use Jason's example. They have a workout, have their shake, then they'll get home, you know, an hour or whatever, and have their dinner. I've seen a lot of kids reduce the dinner because they had that shake. So I think student athletes really need to understand that this is, again, a supplement, not a replacement, to still get those whole foods, those meals, those big meals. And that, hey, I'm having a hard time gaining weight, let's throw those extra supplements in then.
Good timing on the bell. So I know my kid, Jason, he keeps pushing me to get on creatine. And I'm like, absolutely not. I've read studies where the teenage years, they're in the growth mode. They can do so much with nutrition and with strength training. What are your thoughts on that?
Again, it goes back to the old philosophical statement about you have the glass jar with the big rocks, the gravel, the sand. Creatine's probably the one exception I would make to that rule. It's still not a big rock. Nutrition from real food and hydration are going to be the big ones. Creatine would probably be the only supplement I would entertain for high school athletes. There's just decades of data on it at this point. It would be very difficult to screw it up. Mm-hmm. And I think if you just follow some basic common sense guidelines, both of my kids take creatine, 5 grams. I mean, you just get the cheapest creatine you can get as long as it's creatine monohydrate. It's going to be all BS to get a fancier product, totally unnecessary. And the timing of it doesn't matter. That's not something that's sensitive to workouts. It just needs to be in your routine regularly. But that is definitely chapter 2. Yes. Chapter 1 is, are you eating enough? Are you sleeping enough? Are you working hard? And then that would be a chapter 2 nutrition idea. But nothing wrong with it. I think it's a great idea for a lot of athletes who are working hard. It would be difficult to screw up.
Gotcha.
To be the long story short.
Well, very important to remember. That's chapter 2. You know,
yeah.
You're not going to take creatine 5 grams and all of a sudden you're going to be on social media with a chiseled body. Correct. Trying to play the sport that's going to make it better. So
if you're under eating, the creatine is going to be a total waste of time.
Okay. And you agree with that, Coach?
I completely agree with that. I know in the years past that creatine kind of had this stigma. But yeah, it's in Whole Foods. So if you eat steak, you're getting...
And yeah, like Coach McGarity said, if you're eating most of your protein from animal sources, which is going to be the best protein source, you're going to get a gram or 2 of creatine per day. So that extra few grams is just going to add to that. And it does have measurable value. And actually for the parents too, I would say they should be strongly considering that. There's the newest research that's coming out on creatine, because people have been taking it for so many years now. there's a lot of cognitive and neurological benefits that now they're starting to realize that are extremely hard to argue with. So only in outlier situations could you really justify not taking creatine.
I take it every day.
Good to hear. All right, so have you seen a direct impact of strength and nutrition on performance or injury rates?
I would say yes. Now, as we talked about earlier, with the high school athlete, their training age, we'll say, is so low that any stimulus we give them in the weight room, it's going to move the needle. That's the beauty of working with high school athletes. But when we add in that nutrition side, things are just magnified. And what I've seen a lot of is I get kids that they don't want to eat, the proper amount of calories because they're. I get a big one is I don't want to lose my speed. I'm going to gain 15 pounds and lose my speed. I don't want to say everybody, but pretty much every athlete who gains the most weight has the biggest improvement in speed. And then obviously because they're gaining body mass, our strength levels are going through the roof.
Yeah.
So the nutrition side just magnifies what we're doing in the weight room. We can get away with it a little bit at this level and this age, but the athletes that take this serious, it is noticeable. Back to the aesthetic side of things, like Jason said, we're going to put on more muscle mass, which we're still going to look good. They come through the doors in a few months and everybody's like, man, who's this kid? Somebody that's been crushing food.
Right.
He doesn't have this big gut, as you might have thought. He hasn't lost a step. He's gained a step. So it's a big difference.
I think along with that, particularly for female athletes, any athletes, but I think female athletes need to hear this even more, is that anything you can do that's going to allow you to produce more force as an athlete is a good thing. So, let's take a female soccer player, female lacrosse player. If you can gain 5 pounds of muscle, first of all, that's not easy to do. Even as a girl in high school going through puberty, it's still not easy to do. So you're going to work really hard to gain 5 pounds of muscle, and your ability to produce force is going to go through the roof. Having that extra cross-section area of muscle. There's an old phrase that's very accurate for this, which is, you can't fire a cannon off of a canoe. So you take a skinny high school freshman girl and put 4 or 5 pounds of muscle on her, which really is not much. Her ability to produce force and be more resilient from injury is going to go way up. When you think about those shredded athletes, particularly at the professional level, typically, there's no science behind this that I'm aware of, but maybe there is. The leanest athletes are usually the ones that get dinged up and beat up the most. So again, you get to those low body fat levels, there's some hormonal things going on, particularly in women, but men also, that your resilience for injury is going to go way down at those low body fat levels, which is why you don't see a lot of high level athletes in any sport, male or female, that are totally shredded. It doesn't work. The math doesn't work.
Makes sense. What would you tell, both of you, what would you tell a freshman athlete on day one?
Well, first, it cannot replace hard work. So that is more of a strength and conditioning side of things. We cannot replace hard work. To gear it more towards this nutrition side of things is just make sure that we are consuming enough calories. How do we determine that? A good thing is, hey, step on the scale, body weight. Is my body weight going up, down, staying the same? Most of these kids, especially as a freshman, they should be gaining weight. They're still growing. So if the scale is not moving, throw in more calories. Because again, we can go down, as Jason was saying earlier, we can go down a crazy rabbit hole, go into chapter 2 and 3 of this, as far as how many calories we're supposed to consume. But just monitor the body weight scale. Is that changing? And as far as adding, then we're on the right track. Now, obviously, we're gaining 5 pounds in a month, and maybe a little bit concerned, especially for those female athletes, our smaller frames. Maybe we need to get off the calories, but that doesn't happen too much with the high school kids.
I think Sean nailed it with the first statement. Is what I would tell any freshman athlete is work harder than you've ever worked before. Because even from a nutritional perspective, if you start to work at a level you've never worked at before, if you're healthy, which most of these kids are very healthy and functional, their appetites are going to go up. They're going to naturally eat more food. And I think also what Coach McGarity said, just whether it's gaining weight or not, we surely don't want to lose weight. I would even say, let's say you're freshman offensive lineman, you feel like maybe you're a little pudgy, a little overweight. If that kid gains 10, 12 pounds of muscle, I guarantee, it's not even my opinion, it's just science, he will start to lose some of that fat because now he's done the work to raise his metabolism. And just by maintaining that muscle and keeping that muscle on board, that's how we burn fat. That's really the best way to do it. Whether you're 40 or you're 15, gaining some muscle and sustaining the muscle by eating enough protein, your metabolism has gone up, it stays up, and the muscle just cooks that fat off of you slowly over time.
Great. Well, we're wrapping up here. Anything else you want to add that we've missed?
I think I want to just say one thing too is, and this is again to the high school athlete, the 40-year-old that wants to lose some weight or whatever it may be. It's not an all or nothing thing. So hey, I didn't have the best breakfast or I messed up a day. That doesn't derail everything. So the same thing with a kid trying to gain weight and make sure he's getting enough calories, or her, that it doesn't have to be everything or this one meal has to be perfect. Hey, I only got time to eat one yogurt in the morning. Boom, pop that thing. And then maybe after first bell, second bell, we have a second breakfast or a snack. That there's no one way to do this, that just be patient with it. Get the total calories you need, some form. We talked about the 5 days a week. We get 5 of the 7 really good, things will start changing.
Great. Jason,
I
closing
think
comments?
maybe a small point, but something that's kind of a hot button topic and probably should be is just understanding electrolytes and how that works. I get a lot of questions from parents and families about this. And I think for the parents that are my age and older, they grew up they were coming of age in the 90s, and there was still such a societal focus on low salt, low salt, low salt. Well, now they're starting to realize, wait a second, I guess salt wasn't connected to the health effects that we thought it was. And for athletes, it really goes back to University of Florida in the 1960s when they invented Gatorade. And just understanding when you exercise really hard, what actually happened metabolically. You sweated, so you lost water. You had a bunch of muscle contractions and you sweated, so you lost salt. And then the energy, it's all carbohydrates. You're not burning fat during a workout. Definitely not one of these workouts. And even if you're doing quote-unquote fat-burning cardio, you're still burning mostly carbohydrates. So then we need to think about what do we need to replace? Salt, water, and carbs, which is what Gatorade originally was. And so it's a little bit of a Chapter 2 topic, but I think anytime kids can lean into and families can lean into making sure we're staying hydrated and understanding that if your water level is at 20% of what it should be, and you think, okay, I'm going to make a big effort to start drinking a ton of water, and you take your water to 100% of what it should be, and you did not increase your salt, whether you're 14 or you're 40, you're just going to pee out that water. You need the salt to unlock the cellular wall so that the water can get into the muscle. So again, for athletes, and this is a Chapter 1 topic, is athletes should not be limiting their salt. Now, can you overdo it? Sure. Are 99% of kids going to overdo it? No. It's probably not a concern, and if it was, they could reach out to me or Coach McGarity and have a case-by-case analysis of, do I need to make a change or not? But again, we don't want to limit calories. We don't want to limit water. With that said, we don't want to limit electrolytes. There's a lot of products out there that are very reasonable. I think there's a lot of minutia that sometimes parents get focused on for their nutrition goals. And I'll just give this one example. One of the Loveland kids was using Liquid IV, which is a fine product. You can get it at Costco or the grocery stores, and it's basically powdered Gatorade, and it has, 5 or 6 carbohydrates in it, and the kid was avoiding it because their parents said, oh, that has too much sugar. Well, first of all, 6 grams is definitely not too much sugar, particularly for a high school athlete. So again, I think just focusing on making an effort to get some electrolytes in your body regularly. If you're eating food and it's getting salted enough, that's a hell of a start. But it doesn't need to be super fancy, but I think that's a topic that gets easily confused.
So talk about so we've moved, as a family, we Years ago, we moved to sugar-free electrolyte fluids just because we didn't need that extra sugar. None of us did. So I think that's a big misconception. People slam 2 Gatorades and it's like, dude, you see how much sugar you just put in your body?
Correct.
Where Gatorade Zero is really not that different on taste.
Correct.
Talk about that a little bit.
I agree. I would say, again, it's just a timing issue. So whether you're an athlete who's trying to gain weight or lose weight, the timing of those carbs are going to mean a lot. So after a practice or during a sports event, say your doubleheader baseball game, I would not want my athletes drinking sugar-free Gatorade. I want them to just drink normal, full sugar Gatorade.
Okay.
Now, if it's 9 p.m. on a Saturday and you're sitting still playing video games for 4 hours with your buddies, then maybe we switch to the sugar-free Gatorade, particularly if you're trying to maybe lose a little bit of body fat. We don't need those extra carbs when we're away from workout time. But again, whether it's the 45-year-old parent or the 15-year-old kid, we want those carbs after exercise. If you're a 45-year-old, 50-year-old parent listening to this, you want to drive your metabolism up, and a great way to do that is A, working hard, working out, and then matching the nutrition. And so that's one of those details that, I think sugar-free Gatorade and some of the other sugar-free electrolyte drinks are an awesome choice. They've done real studies to show that people who don't drink enough water will drink more if it tastes good. So put something in your water to make you drink it more. If you're already going to put something in your water, get some electrolytes in there.
Yeah. And Liquid IV does have a sugar-free option too.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about Skittles. Every kid thinks they're going to be Marshawn Lynch now, and they're just going to eat
Correct.
Skittles and be good on the field. And so it's in moderation is the key thing. Anything else to add, coaches?
I'll say this, and I think that when you ask the question, like what advice would you give freshmen that were coming in that are just starting their journey? And really, I think my biggest thing is don't be afraid of food. All right, you need food to perform at a high level. One of the things that I commonly see are kids that are afraid to eat because either one, they're trying to cut because they think that they're too chubby or too fat, or two, guys that are very lean, they want to stay lean. And I think that when Jason and Sean both brought up, it's like you can't be afraid to eat food. You need food for performance. That's why we wanted to do this podcast, is to increase our performance both in the weight room and on the field. And I think that kids that are coming into our program, we want them to embrace the process and we want the food to be part of that process. Your body's a furnace. You need fuel for your furnace to burn. And we want to educate our players and our athletes to make sure that they have what they need to be successful.
Great summary, if you ask me, right? Nothing more else to say. So thank you very much, coaches. Jason, thanks for coming in, taking the time so we can educate our student athletes and get them better on the field for the fall, winter, and spring. This episode is sponsored by Cappy's Wine and Spirit. As spring is knocking on the door, hit up Cappy's for all of your social needs. Great bands and fundraisers continue. Thanks for everything that you do. I sure hope you enjoyed my conversation with the coaches Mullins and McGarity and Jason Harbin. We will be a better community with mentors like this in our kids' lives. Please shoot any podcast ideas you want to lovelandallsports@gmail.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook at the Loveland All Sports Pod. Peace.